Hello and welcome back to Fist Entertainment. This time for my review of Child's Play 3, which is the third one in this box set. Child's Play 3 came out in 1991. Funny enough, this does take place several years after the events of the second movie, but it was released 1 year later by Universal Studios. This is a hidden gem, is what I would call Child's Play 3. Is it as good as Child's Play 2? No. As I mentioned when I reviewed that, I don't think any of them are. But, as far as sequels go, this one's actually very, very good. This one, it starts kind of the whole formula of out of control, over the top comedy starts in this movie, but is subtle enough to the point to where this still comes across as a serious horror movie, unlike the films that would follow this. Except for with the exception of Curse and Cult, which those have a bunch of other problems. But I just always liked this one. I've always thought it was a very, very cool and interesting sequel. It's just it's kind of remind me of high school a little bit too, in middle school. Of course, if I was the man I am now, back then it would be probably closer, but it still does remind me of it. Because one thing that I know this is really weird, I bring this one up, but if you think about it, it's kind of like Andy kind of getting with a woman, if you really think about it. But that's basically how I kind of look at that. Simply a lot of stuff that I found interesting about that thing, about the subplot of the romance between him and this woman. But I think something else I really like about this movie is the atmosphere. Andy goes from being this scared guy of Chucky's coming to get me, little kid, to I gotta protect this other kid. I do everything I can to protect this other kid from Chucky. And the transition from pinning victim to hero was actually a very good transition for Andy Barclay in this movie. And that's something I really like about the movie, is that aspect. Well, let's go on to the plot of the film. I say taking place about 8 years, I say. 8 years after the events of Child's Play 2. Andy Barclay is custody is being given to this military school called Kent University or something like that. So he's going to military school. And obviously, military school is a lot like the regular military, only for children or teenagers. So we can see all that stuff. I remember watching this movie for the first time when I was a little kid, because, you know, a lot of people always wanted me to join the military when I was a kid. And seeing Andy Barclay actually, his facial expression on his eyes is his hair's getting cut. It's definitely priceless. It's funny as hell. It's hilarious to see that type of atmosphere right there. And this is one reason why it's really funny. I didn't deliberately fail the assessment test to join the United States military completely because I was against the war we were going ahead and fighting at the time. Because I think that just to put it not out there, I think that if Bush would have went ahead and just sent some special forces units into the Middle East to track down Al Qaeda, we would have probably only had that conflict going on for about a couple of months. Instead, he sent the entire fucking military. And well, I just didn't agree with that at the time. But deep down, the main reason is because I just know that if the government allowed me to kill people, judging from the fact that I'm not diagnosed with this, I might tell you I'm not diagnosed with it, but I had the symptoms of somebody who suffers from bipolar personality disorder, or I try to take back, not bipolar, borderline personality disorder. So I'm not diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I'm a quite balanced individual, but there were times in my life where I had the symptoms of somebody who was. Now, if you take someone like that, who can either be kind of like, a Henry Jackal one minute and Edward Hyde the next, and go ahead and say you can kill people for the United States government, well, I might like it a little too much. Or should I say the darker side of me might like it too much. But the funny reason, now this is how I kind of released this movie, is I deliberately failed that assessment because I didn't want them to cut my hair. And so that's why when I watch this movie, it kind of reminds me of that funny little perk right there. And obviously, he's going through his routine, stuff like that. And, well, obviously, Chucky gets completely rebuilt. He gets completely rebuilt. Because for some stupid reason, these corporate freaking twitty, idiotic pieces of garbage can't waste anything. So they couldn't waste the plastic and all the shit that they killed Chucky with in the last movie, so they had to use that plastic. And in doing so, they used the bodily remains of Chucky to make a new good guy doll. So he shifts himself to the military school, trying to track down Andy Barkley. We come across this black kid who wants a good guy doll. And then throughout the movie, we see Andy Barkley trying to convince the kid to get rid of the doll. And the doll, of course, trying to kill Andy Barkley so that he can't stop him. And, of course, the showdown towards the end is you have this paintball type of simulation, war games like military play. And Chucky takes the bullets out of one side of the team because he had the blue team and the red team. He takes the blank paintball bullets out of one of the team's guns and places those with real actual bullets. And yeah, and of course there's a carnival nearby, so the black kid goes over there and Andy goes after him to try to save him, which he does. And basically they throw Chucky into the conveyor of what is it? What do you call this? A conveyor, or what do you call this? Actually, just I say the motor of a big carnival, ride or machine or something like that. Throws Chucky into that and then cuts him up. Grinds him down, basically. He's still kind of in one piece, but he's all cut up quite well. He's gone. And that's obviously how the movie ends. Now, quality. Again, like Child's Play 2, this film did not come with a 5.1 track. But we did audio first last time. Let's do a video first this time. The video, well, much like Child's Play 2, this looks like a early 1990s movie with the color schemes and how it's filmed in cinematography. So it definitely feels like a 1990s movie in that regard. This one more so than the second, but kind of goes back and forth that way. And so I expect the color schemes to kind of look like that. Look like this film was made in 1991. Which means that neutrals and warms with just a little bit of cools, but not like a dramatic amount of cool temps. In my opinion, it's a very, very good looking movie. Quality's pretty good. Again, 185 by 1 wide. It's definitely a pleasure watching this film theatrically. Say. Audio quality. This one is actually a step up from the previous one. There's a lot more effects in this movie than there actually was in the previous film, but it still is limited to a DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 stereo surround source instead of a 5.1. So it does kind of take away from the experience because of that. But there's actually a lot of really good sound in this. That said, yes, there are sequences in Child's Play 2 where the sound is brilliant. You can't even tell that it's a 2-channel source. But this film has a lot of stuff throughout the entire movie, and that's the reason why I consider it better. So yes, people have watched these movies and have done their own quality reviews. I am definitely aware there are some sequences in the second film that are more dramatic than anything in this one. But it's the fact that it's a constant thing in this movie, and it isn't such a constant thing in the previous movie to have a direction and effects traveling around, which is why I consider this a step up from the previous film in terms of audio. Well, that's pretty much it for Child's Play 3 from 1991. Like I say, I enjoyed this one a little bit more than I thought. To be told, I always thought this was like an odd end to Duck 1, but then the last couple of times I watched this movie, I can tell you how often I watch these movies. The last time I watched this movie was probably 3 years ago. I think the last